We are now going to talk about another component really of our goals. All of this is going to add up to a whole series of things that we want to achieve. So I'm well aware that I'm asking you to write a lot of things down. Trust me, I've been through this exercise lots of times myself, and so have lots of people around me as well that I've worked with, and it does work. So don't worry too much that we're putting huge numbers of wish lists together here. It will all come together into a very sort of comprehensive series of goals that you can follow and that we can measure and get progress from. But what we're going to do now is to look at identity. This is a very interesting one. This is about realizing that you can create a brand new identity. To try and explain that a bit more in terms of, what is an identity? An identity is a description of a person. And when we look at our own identity, it's how we see ourselves. We actually have basically an understanding of who we are, and we have almost accepted the identity of who we are. So if I were to ask you some things about yourself, such as your values currently, so people have a very clear sort of persona really, an identity of themselves, even though they don't necessarily think about it very often, and certainly most people haven't chosen it. So they will say things to you like, I'm very quiet, I'm always the life and soul of the party, I don't actually like doing exercise, I tend to stay up so late. That's just the sort of person that I am. And it's almost people accept how they are and don't realise they can choose how they are. So I want to talk to you about your identity and get you to appreciate that you could actually create a brand new identity. And to do that, what we first need to understand is what you want and what you admire. And once we know the traits, the personality traits that you actually admire, we can then help you to create a brand new identity for yourself, or even just amend your identity so that it's more empowering for you. So let's start with your role models. Who is it that you admire? And I think before we actually talk about that anymore, just write down for me 10 people that you admire and write down beside them why you admire them. Just use one word. So for example, if I say to you David Beckham, what would you think? Do you admire him? If you do admire him, why? Most people, if I ask that question, they say things like tattoos, Victoria Beckham, knighthood, and they tend to like him. And they would tend to write down why they like him, and it will be because of the fact that he's a gentleman, the fact that he's a family man, the fact that he's very handsome. There'll be something. So think about your role models. As I said, do a list. They don't have to be in any particular order, and write down beside them one word that describes why you like them. And also, it doesn't have to be a famous person. It could be somebody that you know personally, a friend, a relative, your mum, your dad. If you really admire somebody that you know, then write them down. And just again, put that descriptive word as to why you like them. So somebody may say that, they hugely admire their mother. Why? Well, it could be she's very hardworking, she's very caring. So just write that word down, because what that's going to do is tell you something about the sorts of things that you value, and therefore the sort of identity that you would like to create. The next thing I'd like you to do is to think about personality traits. Personality traits that you like to see in a person, and personality traits that you don't. And then to start to think about your own personality traits, the ones that you like and the ones you don't. So let's start first of all with personality traits that you like. They could be brave, courageous, daring, hardworking. They could be laid back, excitable, questioning. There's a whole variety of different personality traits. Things that describe the behaviour of individuals. What sorts of personality traits do you like, and what ones don't you like? And then think about, after you've made that list, about your own personality traits. We all have so many different types of personalities. You can normally tell when you're in an empowering personality that you enjoy because you feel good. You can also tell when you're in a personality which is disempowering and that you don't enjoy because you don't feel good. And so let's take a personal example for me. If I'm actually in the flow at work, I'm really enjoying what I'm doing, some ideas are pumping, we're getting things done, I feel great. Now what is that? That for me is my productive, empowered businesswoman personality. Now I can give that a name. I'll give that a name. I'll call that the CEO. For me, that just conjures up all of those things. But let's have a look at sometimes if I'm tired, things are going wrong, I'm not absolutely confident that the things that I want to achieve I'm going to achieve on time. I feel a bit annoyed, I feel irritated with people around me. What is that? I actually associate that with fear. That is a fearful personality. That is a personality that really comes from very, very far in my background, where I was maybe less secure, less confident of my abilities, and fearful that I wouldn't be able to achieve the things that I wanted to achieve. And I know that that personality can raise its head, particularly when I feel tired and particularly when I get setbacks. That is my fearful personality. I have a name for it. I'm very aware of that as well, because when you get these personalities raise their head and you're aware of them, you can shut them down. So you will have personalities as well. You will have excitable, happy, productive, progressive types of personalities. You will know the ones you like because they will make you feel great. You will also have the negative ones that will make you feel frustrated, angry, tired, victimized, bullied, whatever they are. And those are the personalities that you will not want to raise their head in your day-to-day life. So you can actually depict these personalities as well on a piece of paper. You can draw them, and I tend to draw them in fluffy clouds. So I'll draw all the different personalities of Angela, and then I will actually cross out the ones that I don't like. You can be really honest, because no one's going to see this, but you can draw out the personalities that don't make you feel good, are not the best form of you, and that are disempowering for you. So with those ones, I'd cross them out. And with the ones that you like, I would leave those as the ones that are not crossed out. They're the ones that you really want to try and stay in. And you can actually, when you're aware of these personalities, you can switch. The minute you start to feel negative, maybe the minute you start to feel frustrated, angry, tired, fearful, you can snap out of it by moving your body. And we're going to get onto the physiology and the body in the next module. Obviously, this is mindset, but just to let you know that that's why your body and your mind are so linked, because to move from one personality to the next, you literally can step and it can change your personality. You can move your arms about, you can jump up and down with your body, and immediately you can get into a different personality. So we're going to teach you some of those in the next module. But the fact is, you can shift from personality so fast, from a negative one to a positive one. But if you're not careful, you can move from the positive one to the negative one as well without noticing it. So what I would say to you at this point is, we've identified personalities, traits that we like. We've now looking at personality traits ourselves, the ones that we like that help us, the ones that we don't, and we're trying to depict that on a piece of paper. So I'll leave you some time to do that now. There's some examples in the ebook that you can see, but actually have a go at depicting your personality types. So now you've depicted all of the personalities on a page, you'll have an image now of the ideal you. There's one thing that we also need to add to it though, and that is language. Interestingly, when we feel great, we use certain language. We use descriptive language, which is positive, supportive, and tends to be happy. And you'll have your own phrases. I'll be saying things like fab, amazing, super. You'll have yours. When we are negative, when we're in those personalities that you crossed out, when we're not feeling so great, we'll have different types of language, and those will be other trigger words. Sometimes they might be swear words. They certainly are for me, so I'm not going to tell you what they are. But there will be a different type of language that you use when you are in those less empowering personalities. So write the empowering words down for you, and write the disempowering words down for you as well. And then with the disempowering words, be aware that those words are going to be a trigger to place you in that bad personality. It's sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy. So cross those words out. You want to try not to use those. Emphasize the words that you use when you're in a great personality. You want to try and use those as much as you can. So we've got an image of you now, haven't we? Well, you certainly have, in your various pages of writing, because you've documented this amazing day. You've visualized yourself in a lot of detail going about that day. You've seen yourself in a lot of detail. Obviously, as part of that, you've seen the people that you're interacting with, and you've seen the job that you're doing, and just how you're sort of spending your time. And then what you've done is you've written down the empowering personalities, the great personalities that really help you to achieve what you want to achieve. And you know the language that you use as well. And you also know who your role models are. You've listed all those role models, and you've actually identified why they are your role models. And those notes that you've made by each of those role models actually represent your values. They represent the things that are important to you. Why do you find somebody a role model? Well, you've said why. Well, if that's your why, that must mean that you think that is important, and it must be something that you admire. So if you start to take all of that as a picture about you and the future you and the you that you aspire to being, what we need to do now is to really lock that in our mind, and we can do that by naming that identity, because that all together is the new you. That's the identity that we want you to basically manifest and realize and make real. And I'm going to show you how to do that. But before we do it, we need to actually give it a name. Now I'm going to show you what I did when I went through this exercise. There was, for me, a time where I didn't have the body that I wanted, as most of you know who will look at my history. And although from the outside world, my business was performing very well, I just wasn't in the personality and the identity that I needed to be. I wanted to be a lot calmer. And it was really important to me because I was like that proverbial swan gliding around. Everybody thought that I had everything to hand, and yes I did, but underneath I was pedaling like fury, and I was working so many hours, and I felt quite frankly exhausted, and I didn't look how I wanted to look. So on the one side I was achieving, but I wasn't achieving happily, and I didn't have the energy levels that I wanted. And then the other side, I didn't look like I wanted to look by a long shot. You know, I was out of shape, and it was alien feeling to me because I was used to feeling and looking energetic. So my identity, doing all the same exercises that I've talked through with you, was something called the calm toned CEO. Now, you know, you don't have to share your identity. For me, that was the one that I chose at that time. I have another one now, and this will change actually. So I'm not going to share the one with you that I have now because these are personal, and these are personal goals that we work towards. But what I want to show you is what happened. One day, someone presented to me a picture of me in such a way, and I don't know if you can see that, but I looked at that picture. I remember like yesterday walking into the meeting, and this is my marketing agency, just sort of popping that on my desk, and I thought, oh my goodness, there's the calm tone CEO. And I was shocked. I shocked myself with what you can achieve, because that was so different. And I know that I look toned there, but what you wouldn't know from looking at that picture, but what I know is I was totally calm there, and I feel totally calm now. And it's a complete change of persona, and it did not happen by accident. It happened through basically taking all the steps that you're taking now. So you're on a journey, and I can absolutely assure you that this is going to achieve some amazing things for you. We just need to follow the footsteps.